Great job as usual, and now it's time for Dax to give us his breakdown. And I know normally, Dax, you pick 3 fights, but we're going to follow suit like we did last week, and you're going to pick the 4, or at least break down and give us your prediction on the 4 heavyweight Boxcino fights that are taking place up at the Turning Stone. So why don't you kick us off with those?
All right. We're going to start off with, as I said, Jason Estrada. He's going to replace Mario Herrera against Lenroy Thomas. Jason, being the fact that he's a late sub, makes me wonder what kind of shape he's really in. Jason, he's not really lived up to his potential, as a former Olympian. He started his career strong, Bill, but then he faded. He's been real inactive the last few years as well. I mean, highly inactive. He fought just once in 2014, not at all in 2013. In fact, in his last fight, he lost to another man in this tournament, Steve Vuska, by majority decision. And in fact, it was kind of a gift for Estrada. The more popular fighter, Judge Jack Morrell, he was kind of being Santa Claus in that fight. I don't think Estrada won more than a round. That fight was in July. Estrada came in the second highest weight of his career at 254 pounds. And also, Vuska came in that fight on a 12-year layoff. So, that makes me question exactly where Estrada's head is. The only other time he was higher than in that fight is in 2006. He came in 257 against Travis Walker. That's another fight he lost by a majority decision. Both those fights were 8-rounders. Estrada has horrible stamina. I don't know if it's the fact that he's only 6'1". He comes in at 240+ pounds more often than not. But that's likely the cause. He has no power. He's never had a win against anybody above sea level. So you have to question exactly what Jason Estrada is doing here. Across from him, you have Lenroy Thomas. Not overly popular, but he's a pretty good fighter. Had a good amateur career. Also trained by Dan Birmingham. Lenroy fought some good names as an amateur and won a fair amount of tournaments on the local, state, and national level. Thomas has a good jab, but like Estrada, Lenroy's been pretty inactive. He was stopped in 2010 by journeyman Aaron Lyons and took off for 3 years. He fought Dominic Brazil in 2013. That was a rematch from their amateur days, matter of fact, and he was stopped in 4. He fought and won twice in 2014, but against opponents with a combined 26-41 record. One of those opponents had 34 of those 41 losses alone. Like Estrada, Thomas, who stands 6'1", often comes in out of shape, Bill. Be it lack of inactivity, lack of training, I don't know. This is a pick 'em fight. I hate to say it, but something? There's really not much to pick here. This is a coin toss. I thought about it for hours and hours. In my opinion, these are the 2 weakest fighters in the tournament.
It's funny because Jason Estrada, I used to go and watch him a lot when he was with the, when he was fighting under the Birchfield banner. And he would, exactly how you described. I mean, forget his condition. He would always fight like he was thinking about what he was going to do after the fight. Like, he never was focused, it seemed. And he did have a lot of talent at one time. And I'm not sure what to expect. Now, as far as Lenroy Thomas, I got to meet him in person down in Florida. The truth on Lenroy is that he doesn't like to train. He doesn't like to work out that much. You got to beg him to run and stuff. So you're right. This is going to be an interesting fight to see. Which one comes out just a little better, I'm glad you brought up the Steve Vukosa fight. He was off all that time. That was supposed to be a guy that Jason Estrada was supposed to beat. And next thing you know, Vukosa wins, and now he is looking at, a resurrected career. So a very interesting matchup between Jason Estrada and Lenroy Thomas. Who's your official pick?
My official pick, to be honest with you, I'm going to have to go with Lenroy.
Yeah,
if I was pushed against the wall, and I would pick Lenroy, only due to the fact that, just as you said, Jason Estrada doesn't seem very focused in there. And, he started out his career strong early on, but you would think, considering the level of opposition that he's faced, just from his amateur pedigree alone, he should have been able to beat 99.9% of the guys he's ever faced without a problem, even without a great training camp. So I don't know if it's more mental than anything with him.
Lenroy is much bigger. I think you're making the right decision. What about the next one?
All right, next fight we have going on here is Nate Haven against Andrei Fedosov. This is an easy pick. This was actually the easiest one for me to pick on the whole card. Haven, yeah, he's a big guy. Last year he scored one heck of a first-round KO over Boxcino fellow participant Donovan Dennis. But that's the extent of his career. Really no amateur career. He spent so much time in and out of prison. He's very one-dimensional. I don't know what Nate does outside of outside of boxing. Because matter of fact, after that win last year where he looked sensational, matter of fact, he's on a lot of highlight reels. It's one of the best KOs of the year. Haven fought in July, and he was knocked out by 44-year-old Stacy Frazier in the first round. Entering the fight, Frazier was on a five-fight losing streak, all of them by KO. Haven had him shook, but when Frazier didn't go down, Haven seemed confused. He was taken out by the old man. That tells us a lot about what Haven has to offer. He's a one-dimensional fighter with no plan B. Against Andre, not going to be enough, Bill. Fedosov has a size disadvantage, but the skill and quality of his opposition is a lot better. He's, between his pro and amateur experience, Fedosov is a body puncher who throws short punches. He keeps a high guard, always comes in forward. I don't think Haven's going to be able to deal with the pressure that Fedosov brings once on the inside. Haven's a slim fighter. That body work is going to mean a lot. Fedosov has worked with Freddie Roach, who's pretty high on him. People might remember Fedosov against Jennings, even though he lost that fight. He gave Brian Jennings a pretty tough night, kept him on the ropes, constantly keeping Jennings moving. Jennings couldn't really sit still. Even when Jennings was coming back, Fedosov just stood there and took it. And, he really, really, really abused Jennings' body. The only reason why Fedosov, that fight was stopped by KO, but it was due to a cut. This one, I think Fedosov is going to win by KO, and I think he's going to win within the first 3 rounds.
Wow. Nate Heaven's my guy. I called a couple of his early fights in Florida, and, that knockout that you referred to last year that was on ESPN highlight reel for the top 10 highlights for the sports highlights that they did. You totally caught me off guard. I forgot all about him losing to Bigfoot Frazier in his last fight. That does say a lot, man, because Frazier was a done fighter. I mean, when was the last time he even fought before that fighter? Before that fight, I didn't even think he had been in the ring for quite some time. The only reason I think you make some great points, but I kind of stick with my guys. I'm leaning toward, like, just as much as I'm going with Lenroy, I'm going to go with Nate Heaven on that one. But what about the next one?
All right, my next fight we got on here is Razvan Kujanu against Ed Fountain. Kujano's a big guy, 6'7" and a half. He's got a 79-inch reach. He averages the 260s, but Bill, he's not an out-of-shape 260 either. He's kind of slim. He always looks like he's in the gym. Decent amateur background. The only thing about him is he lacks power. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with his style, because he doesn't fight like a 6'7.5" guy. He smothers his punches, he loops them from in close, and he's very awkward at times. I don't know that much about Fountain, except in his wins, he's never looked overly spectacular from the footage I've seen. He's kind of limited. He's also fought guys who are quite possibly the most out of shape ever. Guys that make Butterbean look like a swimsuit model. Almost all his fights have been in Missouri. He's actually has some Shannonburg fraud opponents in common. Richard Carmack is a guy who weighed 316 pounds against Fountain. John Orr, who was almost 300 pounds. Both of them, hadn't fought in a long time, and I think John Orr almost fainted from the ring walk. Fountain, who turned pro in 2012, he weighed 216 pounds then. He has steadily gained weight in every fight since. His last fight was at 249 pounds, and that was just in December. Makes you wonder what kind of conditioning he's in, considering right now we're only 2 months later. Kujanu, despite his lack of using his height and reach properly, he should win this by decision fairly easy. Fountain has never been in with an opponent in this type of shape, let alone one as big or with any sort of amateur experience as Kujanu. I pick Kujanu by a wide, unanimous decision.
Yeah, Butterbean swimsuit model. That's your classic line of the year so far. That was great. But I saw some shots of Kujanu. And he's standing in front of a door. I mean, the guy can almost not fit through a doorway. That's how big he is, So I'm agreeing with you on that one. And finally, the Donovan Dennis Steve Acosta fight. What's your thoughts on that?
All right. Steve is going to be only having his third fight since 2002. You know, he's 38 years old. He's the oldest guy on here. He's never been a full-time fighter. You know, 8 of his 10 fights took place in 2001, 2002. The other one, as we spoke about before, was against Estrada. That was his biggest win, other than against a well-known opponent fighter, Franklin Edmondson, and that was in 2002. And Franklin was 10, 16, and 1. His record is now 14 and 40. So, you know, at that point in time, that was a big win for Steve. You know, Steve has worked with Freddie Roach as well, and is a former Golden Gloves champion, but that's when Lennox Lewis was king of the heavyweights. I'm not really sure what he's even doing in this tournament, Bill, and I'm not even sure what he's going to do afterwards. Donovan Dennis is a big guy, and he has some talent. He was a former amateur standout in Iowa, winning 11 Golden Glove tournaments in the state. He's competed on national levels. He lost to fellow tournament contestant Lenroy Thompson in 2011, and in the 2012 Olympic trials, he lost to Dominic Brazil by stoppage. Donovan has a questionable chin, but Vacosa, not the type of guy to capitalize on it. I really think Dennis is going to come in here and he's going to win this one by knockout. Against the Nate Haven fight, it was nothing to do with what Nate did spectacular. When you watched the fight, you know, me and you were ringside, Donovan made a real silly mistake. He looked away as he was getting ready to set his feet, and that gave Haven, you know, time to land that big shot and knock him out. That's not going to happen again tonight, on Friday.
Yeah, I've never seen Vacosa fight, so I'm not sure what to expect. I didn't see the Estrada Vacosa fight, so and you're right. Donovan Dennis was in control of that fight until Nate Heaven knocked him out. But as usual, great job with the breakdowns on this, Dax. You did.